Let's get this going. Good morning, everyone, and welcome to the Mac, Jack, and Jim Sports Show. Starting off your day on the Northeast Streaming Sports. I'm your host, Mac. Your co-host, Jack Hirsch, legendary boxing writer and boxing Hall of Fame famer himself. Jim Jeffcoat will be joining us in the second hour. We're live on YouTube, Facebook, and Twitch before I get my mouth running here about the other stuff. Jack, today we got on Keith Angle, who will be giving us our Patriots preview. We got Pags preview of the Eagles should be coming in at 9:10. And as I said, we'll have Jim on in the second hour. And of course, this is where you get all your NFL games, game day here first before the big networks try to take over. And give you the same type of coverage, folks. We'll give you a breakdown of all the games. We'll talk about the biggest news. And like I said, we'll have your previews on. So, Jack, real quick mention last night, big fight. Usyk outpointed Joshua for the most of the heavyweight championship belts. And folks, tune in tomorrow night, 7 p.m. Eastern, to Glove Fist, where Jack Hirsch and Frank Lotierzo will give you a bunch of information. They'll break down the fight and a lot of more boxing information. So big news in boxing. But back to football right now. We're starting week 3, but there was a game on Thursday where Carolina beat the Houston Texans 24-9. And, Carolina's playing some good ball, Jack. Unmute your microphone, Jack.
Carolina, they had one big win. They're 3-0. The middle of the 3 games was against the New Orleans Saints. They beat a quality team in the Saints. They beat 2 of the weaker teams in the Jets and the Texans, but they've played well. But the test is going to come going forward. They have a much tougher schedule, and they're also going to have to deal with the injury to Christian McCaffrey, their great running back, who's their focal part of their offense. I mean, how are they going to be without him? And also J.C. Horn, their number 1 draft choice, broke a foot, so he's out for the season. We don't know when McCaffrey, by the way, is coming back. So they're going to have to deal with that. But we do know Carolina has a very stingy defense and played well against the Texans. And kudos to the Texans. They don't have that good of a team, but they are playing hard, and they are being competitive, at 1 and 2.
Very true. And, we're going to get to the injuries a little bit. I want to go through the standings real quick. It's only 2 games, Jack, but I want to keep everybody ascribed to what's going on here in the AFC East. Buffalo, Miami, and New England are 1-1. The Jets are 0-2. In the AFC Division West, you have the Raiders in Denver at 2-0, Kansas City and the Chargers at 1-1. In the North, you have Pittsburgh, Baltimore, Cleveland, and Cincinnati all at 1-1. In the South, you have Tennessee at 1-1. Houston just played Thursday. They're 1-2. The Colts and the Jags are 0-2. In the NFC, in the East, Washington, Philly, and Dallas are 1-1. The Giants are 0-2. In the West, San Francisco, the Rams, and Arizona are all 2-0. Seattle at 1-1. In the North, Green Bay and Chicago are 1-1. Minnesota and Detroit at 0-2. In the South, Carolina, as we said, is 3-0. The Bucs are 2-0. New Orleans at 1-1, and Atlanta at 0-2. Now, very early. I mean, I know a lot of the fans out there that are 0-2 to their teams are starting to panic already. And you got 15 more games to go. So there are teams that maybe like the Jets that we already know are probably not going to have the greatest season, right? Because they're rebuilding. The Jags, they're rebuilding and they're starting from scratch. It's very hard to get up and win games against teams that are already established, whether they're real good teams or even if they're just good teams. So it's hard. They got to get everything going. And by mid-year or so, you'll start seeing improvements. I know you'll start seeing improvement with the Jets, hopefully with the Jags. The Falcons are a different question. I mean, the Giants, Jack, what do you think about this? For the Giants to be happy with the results of today's game, they not only got to beat the Falcons by the 3.5 points, they got to beat them significantly. They got a lot of talent that's not being utilized. I mean, the offensive line is not good. We know that. But they got all kinds of weapons, receivers. Jones can run with the ball. Barkley hasn't played full yet, but he's another weapon. Receivers, tight ends. I think Ingram's even going to start today or play today. And if they don't beat the Atlanta Falcons significantly, if they beat them by 1 or 3 points, say, you still think do you think the Giant fans should be good or the Giants should be good about that?
You know, I kind of disagree with you, Mac. Any type of Giant victory is good. We're looking at it from the perspective, the Falcons, they have one of the worst teams in the NFL because they've been basically non-competitive the first 2 games. But the Falcons have weapons on offense, Matt Ryan to Calvin Ridley, the great tight end Pitts who they drafted. And any type of win straightens the ship out to me with the Giants because the Falcons are due to play better. And I'm not saying that's going to translate into victories. I think more important that the Giants have got to get Saquon Barkley going. I mean, if they can't get him going against the Atlanta Falcons, who've had trouble on the defensive side of the ball, who are they going to get him going against? Are they finally going to unleash him against the Cowboys, the Eagles, or whoever else they play, outside of their division? This is the game Saquon Barkley has got to get going. If Saquon Barkley carries for, let's say, 35 yards on 10 carries this game, it doesn't look good going forward because he's their main weapon, at running back. And no one is going to fill the void of Saquon Barkley, even though you might say they're going to do it by running back by committee. And listen, it's Eli Manning's day today. Yes. They honor Eli Manning at halftime. And so you want the vibes to be good for something like that. But the Giants should win by more than a touchdown. But if it comes down to a field goal win at the end of the game, like against Washington, but this time winning it, a win is a win. This is the NFL. The weaker teams sometimes rise to the occasion. And I think the Falcons are going to play the Giants tough today.
Well, I was just going to go to the other side with Atlanta. I mean, Atlanta's got to be thinking the same way, Jack. If we're going to win a game, this is one of the games we should be able to win, right? Because the Giants, even though I think they have more weapons on offense than Atlanta, they're still not playing well. Their defense hasn't been playing well. So if I'm the Atlanta Falcons, I'm looking forward to this game as much as the Giants are to get my first win too, right?
Well, without question, if the Giants play a dominating game on defense, Atlanta, loses pretty badly, let's say 30-13. You know what the focus is in Atlanta? They're 0-3. Basically, at least the public, if not the team, the Atlanta Falcon fans, whether they admit it or not, are going to start throwing in the towel. And they're going to be studying the college draft for next year. And they're going to look at the quarterback situation, who's coming out, who's picking first. And the teams that are going to be competing with the Falcons for the number 1 pick, they're not going to need a quarterback. They're not going to draft a quarterback. Jacksonville's not drafting a quarterback in the next draft. The Jets aren't. Might they trade that pick if they somehow edge ahead of the Falcons on the top of the draft order? Of course. But that's where the focus is going to be. So for the Falcons, if they have any type of playoff aspirations at all, it's got to start today against the Giants. And believe me, they know it. And this same with the Giants. They're in the weak NFC East. The Giants could actually lose this game. And as bad a loss as it would be, they wouldn't be out of the picture in the NFC East yet. But if you can't beat the Falcons, let's be honest about it. it's going to be a heck of a long road back.
No doubt. Backstage right now, we have Keith Engel with the Pats preview. So let's bring them up and get some kind of feeling what Keith has about today's game. So how you doing, Keith?
Hey, guys. How are you?
Good, good. You know, the Patriots, made some major moves this year. They got a new quarterback. And they seem last game to get it going. And, of course, that being against the Jets. But, again, you play who you play.
Right.
So you're going up against New Orleans. The New England's favored by 3.5. You still got a young quarterback who I shouldn't say he's nowhere close to young as who you went up against last week. But he was a first round draft choice. Had some problems, Tampa, with interceptions. Plays for New Orleans. It looks like he's going to be good, and then there he goes again. So you got Winston versus probably Belichick. You can say Belichick, but it's a Patriots defense. You got your rookie quarterback against a very good Saints defense also. You got a good running back on New Orleans' side. Mm-hmm. So what's your thoughts for the Patriots in this game to go up in the standings 2-1, Keith?
Well, I really think, they're going to have a tough time running the football. And James White in that short passing game is going to become, the de facto running game, I think, for the Patriots today. The Saints are good up front. They're good against the run. I think they're going to – and the Patriots need to control the football. I also think, though, and we talked a little bit about this Friday, that it would happen eventually, has to happen eventually. I think today's a day that Mac Jones may need to get the ball down the field a little bit to Nelson Aguilar. Hopefully he's healthy, and I think he is, to open up some of that short passing game and maybe even the running game. This might be a day they have to do that. I do think defensively, I think Belichick might be licking his chops with Winston because I think he thinks he can probably confuse him with some different sets and whatnot. And the Patriots, their front seven has been very, very good. I think they'll control that. They give up run. They give up rushing yards, right? But they don't. Even the Jets ran the ball well last week. I think they averaged 5 yards a carry. But that front seven bends, it doesn't break, and they put some pressure on the quarterbacks, which helps their weaker cornerback situation and led to those 4 interceptions last week. I think this is a good measuring stick for where the Patriots are right now this week because, Sean Payton is a real good coach, obviously. And if anybody's going to get something out of Winston, it's going to be him. You saw it in week 1, but I think you're going to get weeks like he had last week as well thrown in there. So I think right now I think it's a fairly even matchup, and I think a game of turnovers. Control, hold on to the football, and you'll probably win this game.
The Patriots used to use their tight ends a lot. That was their big thing. They're wide receivers. I mean, you had Randy Moss there for a while, but I mean, you really never had a really big wide receiver. You can go all the way back to Ben Coates, and before that, I think, if I'm not mistaken, it was McAfee. I could be wrong. But the Patriots have always utilized their tight ends. You went out and got 2 new tight ends this year. Are you going to you think they're going to attack that linebacker safety core with that? I mean, I know you say they may go deep, but there's nothing like them controlling the middle of the field like they always have.
No, when I say go deep, I mean take a couple shots downfield just to give them that look, right? I think they got to make that, and with some success, so that the Saints have to protect the middle, or can't just clog the middle of the field for those running backs and tight ends, as you mentioned. They did invest a lot of money and have over the years trusted their tight ends. You're right. Going all the way back to Russ Francis in the 70s.
There you go.
Have utilized that tight end position better than most teams. And they've tried to do it the first couple of weeks with some middling success. Smith's done well. Henry's been a little bit of a non-factor here and there, but I think they'll get that going. And again, as I said earlier, I think they're going to have difficult running the football today, and they're going to need those tight ends and running backs. I think that'll be the de facto running game. But again, if the Saints front seven's able to clog up that part of the field, it's not going to be successful. So,
well, if we want to be plain and simple, the Saints have a better defense than the Jets, and the Jet defense is pretty stubborn against the Patriots. They really made them work.
Yeah.
And the reason the Patriots won as comfortably as they did, because the Jets had absolutely no answer in the passing game with the 4 interceptions. And if Jameis Winston to play a halfway decent game. And I think Sean Payton's going to make them play conservative, set up that type of game plan. And it was very insightful what you said that New Orleans should do with Mac Jones. Make him beat you. Make him prove for the first time in his NFL career he could throw the ball downfield. If he beats you that way, he beats you. But put him in that spot. And you never know. Maybe he'll have a Zach Wilson type of game if you force him to do that.
It could happen. I mean, the Patriots have done a great job of not putting in a position to throw 4 interceptions in a game, right? They're very careful with what they do with them. They put him in situations to succeed. Now, defenses can change that, right? I had a thought here I just lost track of. The turnover situation. I mean, one thing that's helped Mac Jones, right, is field position. He has not been backed up, at least in that last week for sure. They had short field position all the time, really good, starting position. So that helps the offense. Obviously, you turn the ball over and keep getting the ball at the 40 and 50-yard line. Well, you're going to have some success.
Any injuries, Keith? Any injuries that
well, there's still some question about Van Noy playing this week, and they're missing Trent Brown. On the offensive line. I don't think he's going to play today, and they had trouble replacing him last week. The Jets did get some pressure on Mac Jones at different times last week. So that would be a big injury for him. Adrian Phillips, his status is a little unclear. It's not an injury. He had a little situation with the police, which sounds like a misunderstanding, but we'll see. The Patriots are all saying all nice things about him. Other than that, Matt Judon was missing some practice this week, but I think you'll see him play. Was there anybody I missed? That's pretty much all the key guys that we need to worry about. Oh, N'Keal Harris is out, or Harry. N'Keal Harry's out, so that's a big loss for the Patriots.
Okay,
Kidding.
so one prediction I got to make this week. I think the Patriots will win.
I do too.
In the spread, but watch out for the trick plays from Sean Payton this week. He's famous for them, and I will imagine he will try one of those if things aren't going well.
Yeah, I agree. This is going to be a game. I think, again, the turnover battle is always important in the NFL, right? And if the Patriots win that turnover battle, I think they'll win this game comfortably, as you said, outside the spread. And that's my thought there. But again, the Saints are not a team you can just come out of the field, throw the football out there, and win either. So
that's the truth. You're going to have to play a very good football team, whether the quarterback isn't really good or not. Okay, Keith, thanks for coming in, and we'll be watching with you. Have a great day, man.
All right, you too, guys. Thanks.
There you go. So there you go, folks. It's Keith Angle with your Patriots preview for today. Jack, I got the Patriots winning by at least 7.
I like New Orleans in this game. People keep talking about the type of defense that Bill Belichick is going to throw at Jameis Winston, because Jameis Winston is an interception machine at his worst. Sean Payton's ready for that, okay? And I don't think Jameis Winston is going to get reckless with the ball. And Jameis Winston, I mean, there are a lot of plays you could run with him, play action. He's mobile. They're running attack. And sometimes I wonder about the New England Patriots. Are we overrating them based on their past and Bill Belichick's past? Because after all, they were only a 7-9 team last year. And if you look at their 2 games, okay, they beat a Jet team who was actually kind of hanging in there with their defense. And the first game of the season, I mean, the Miami Dolphins beat them with Tua. And that's the same Dolphin team for the most part that got blown out 45-0 by Buffalo the next week, even though Tua did go out early with the rib injury. So all this talk about the type of defense that Bill Belichick is going to throw at Jameis Winston, he's going to rattle him, he's going to do this, he's going to do that. Don't you think Sean Winston could throw it at a rookie Mac Jones? I mean, Mac Jones, I'm not doubting his intelligence, but make him beat you. Make him beat you, Mac Jones. And there's a reason a few quarterbacks were taken ahead of Mac Jones in the draft, because the feeling was that Mac Jones was lacking a little bit in throwing the ball downfield compared to the other quarterbacks.
Well, I mean, all valid points, Jack. So we'll just have to tune in today to see what happens. I got a good feeling about the Patriots today. You like New Orleans. We'll see what happens for sure. I want to jump back to Carolina for a minute, not just to talk about the team, a little bit about the team, a little bit about injuries. But let's get to the team first. So Darnold's playing well. I mean, yeah, they haven't gone against the best teams yet, but we don't really know who the best teams in the NFL is right now because Kansas City's 1-1, right? So we really don't know. We'll find out as the season goes on. You know, Darnold threw for over 300 yards. He ran for 2 touchdowns. And the Carolina team, as is right now after the third game, has only given up 10 points average per team. Now, again, we don't know how good those teams are for real. So the defense on Carolina, the drafting of that defense that Rule did right away, it was all defense the first year. He was building one side of the ball at a time, it looked like. Very smart to me. I mean, he just, instead of going out and just saying, well, I like this tight end and I like that cornerback, he said, the heck with it, I'm drafting defense this year. And it seems to be working out for him. McCaffrey gets hurt again on a non-contact injury, Jack. Now, we've talked about this in baseball. I want to talk about this in football a little bit. So you go back 3 years ago, you had Zeke, Saquon, McCaffrey, all lighting it up, right? And if you go back in the past to the other great running backs, Jim Brown, who retired healthy, talk about John Riggins, talk about Emmitt Smith, Walter Payton, Larry Zonka. I mean, I could go on and on. They didn't seem to get injured like this. And I'm thinking, as well as baseball, maybe more so football, because we're seeing a lot of injuries not due to contact or a little twist in that put them out for games. Are the athletes are just training too hard now in weight training? I mean, they didn't train like that a long time ago. They were just as strong and more durable, Jack.
I have a theory, and we live in an age of analytics, but no one is taking the analytics on this. I'd like to see them get film clips of the old games and see how long a period of time it was when the defensive team would go off the field to when they come back on the field. Now, today, everything is television related. Things are delayed. So a player comes off the field. He sits on the bench. He cools off for 10 to 15 minutes or something. I'm just approximately before he goes back on the field. And if you're a runner, you know your legs are cooling off, your muscles are cooling off. And football is a game of explosive movements. It's not like you're jogging and warming up. And all of a sudden, he has to cut at 100% effort, okay? And that's where I think the injuries take place. These guys really aren't that warmed up. You know what's interesting? And I don't mean to detour to baseball. I'm only going to do it very quickly. Giancarlo Stanton gets to second base yesterday. And there's a timeout. I think the manager went to the mound. And you see him running back and forth vigorously because he knows he might have to try to score. And he knows his muscles are cold, even though he was playing the field. He'd been sitting in the dugout. He'd been standing on the base. And that's my theory. These guys are just cooling off on the bench too long. And then they have to have these all-out explosive movements. So you mentioned Jim Brown. I would wager to bet Jim Brown did not spend as much time on the bench when the defensive team was on the field because he didn't have television. He didn't have the commercials.
Sure.
He didn't have the lull of the game, looking at a replay. So he got back on the field a lot quicker like the other players did. So that's my theory why there might be less injuries because McCaffrey has a badly strained hamstring, okay? And I could tell you something as a runner, Mac, you get a hamstring injury, it basically puts you out. And when you finally get back in, you have to come back very slowly, not to re-injure. Look what happened with James Harden with the Nets. He suffered one of those, and he never got back to 100% by the end of the season. So, it's bad. But the old timers, you're right, they never got that.
Not like that.
And why are they getting it today?
I think you got a great point there. And I also think that weight training, and when you weight train, you're actually ripping your muscles, Jack, right? So you're ripping your muscles and you're building your muscles that way. And I think it's good to a point. I think the overall conditioning is very important. But if you're just, squatting whatever, you're putting a lot of stress on your tendons, on your joint. Yeah. And all it takes is one good hit to knock that joint out. I think that maybe they're overtraining for sports right now. I think that, you got to be in good condition. You got to be able to run. You got to be able to hit. You got to be strong. But I think that maybe they're overdoing it now because, like I said, Walter Payton, Barry Sanders, Emmitt Smith, I mean, these guys played all the time. Strong, fast, athletic, and they don't get the injuries like they do today. If you look at the top 3 running backs from 3 years ago, they're all banged up all the time.
Mac, you don't need any of this physical training from the waist down. You just need to run. Sprints, cutting, running forward, running backward. You don't need the machines. I mean, I actually tried them as a marathon run, and I said, this is insane to try to build up your legs with the different Nautilus machines. They put weights on you. They have these personal trainers today, and it seems like they're inventing all these exercises as you go along. I mean, it's crazy the way it's gotten out of control. And you make a great point. Your weight training and you're putting this stress on your hamstring, your tendons, your knees. And I think it's kind of overkill.
I do too.
I think it really, if not directly, it's indirectly related to athletes, just getting hurt. I mean, it's one thing if you're rehabbing. That's different. If you're rehabbing, I understand you have to be on the machines and so on. But once you're healthy, you don't need those things like weights on the legs because, you might be thinking, well, you're building up your calves, you're this, you're that, but you're also putting a certain strain and, in affecting certain ligaments. And you might not realize it at the time, but you're basically setting yourself up for injury. And that's what's happening all over the NFL. I think if they're going to wake up to this because it's a big problem. And they're going to have to explore, do a study, like you're saying, Mac, why are today's athletes getting hurt in ways that the old timers weren't?
Yeah, I mean, listen, you got to wait. I mean, I played football for a while. You got to wait training for your strength. There's no doubt about that. But to do the extremes that they do, I watch them train. To do the extremes they do, that's got to put you in a position, I would think, and I'm no expert at this, but one good hit, one good turn, one good twist, you're gone. I've never heard of pectoral muscles being ripped before till now. I've never heard that in the NFL. I've never heard it in any sport. But now it's like it's not common, but it happens. And I think that maybe they got to study this, Jack, because you pay a lot of money for these running backs and for these players to play on your team, especially the better ones. And if they're out all the time, not only is it a waste of money, it's a waste of talent. It's a waste of a person. It's a waste of a career. So there definitely should be some kind of study done on that. And, I'm not sure. I'm not sure what they got to do, but they got to do something with it.
But I could tell you something, Mac. It's the style of game some athletes play. You get the feeling of Lamar Jackson, for example. He's been running his whole life. He's been cutting all these different directions. So for him to do it during an NFL game, he's been doing it since he's a kid. Having the natural talent, the natural intelligence to know, which way to move. But for certain athletes, you just wonder, like with McCaffrey, he's been injury prone, and especially you get hurt on non-contact plays, and it happens more than once. Listen, any athlete could cut the wrong way and go down and get injured. I mean, but why are some guys injury prone more than others? I mean, you kind of wonder about it.
Go ahead, Robert. Check your email. You should be all set. Our next guest coming up will be Robert Butler from Sports.
But you can't baby guys after a while. Like we were talking about Saquon Barkley before. There gets to a point where you kind of have to unleash them, let go. If they're going to be hurt, they're going to be hurt. You have to bad luck. Look, what the Yankees did with John Carlos Stanton. They wouldn't play him in the outfield for a couple of years. Now we see they could have done that all along. They finally played him on the field out of necessity. And guess what? He's not getting hurt. He's getting hurt less than when he was a designated hitter because his body is now used to moving around more.
Yes. So backstage right now, folks, we have Sports Scope host Robert Butler come in and talk about his opinions on some of the topics that I sent him. And I don't send him softballs either, guys. I send him some stuff that he actually has to sit down, research, put his glasses. No, he doesn't work.
I think it's easy stuff you give Rob personally. I mean, I don't think it's
well. We're not in here for just Robert's, his knowledge. Now we're here for his opinion too. So that's what I like about having Robert on. So good morning to
you. You keep forgetting to send me the link, Mac. I think I stressed out about the Giants too much. Giants are stressing him out, Jack.
They are. So, Rob, the Raiders. A lot of people. Jim Jeffcoat said something about him on our show, right? He said he was gonna. He's expecting big things from the Raiders. They got a new defensive coach and one of the better defensive coaches from the past on their team, and that's where the Raiders have been lacking, right? I mean, everybody this year talked about Kansas City's the favorite to go to the Super Bowl. San Diego's improved. They might have a shot at getting a wild card. Denver's defense has improved. They got a shot. Nobody said anything about the Raiders. I mean, nobody. I didn't. Besides Jim. Talking, of course, I don't talk to Raider fans. I guess the Raider fans, of course, were talking about it. But outside of that, the only one that's mentioned about the coaching on the defensive side of the ball was Jim Jeffcoat. And we already know they had the offense. They beat Kansas City once last year already with their offense. And Derek Carr's lighting them up, and they're playing physical again. So is that your biggest surprise this year, Robert?
Well, remember, they started 2-0 last year, guys, and they beat up on the Saints in week 2 after the Saints beat the ultimate Super Bowl champs in the Tampa Bay Bucks. Ran the ball on that good defensive line, but they fall off at the end of the last 2 seasons, guys. They were 3-2 in 2019. They were 2-0 last year. They're 2-0 this year. And they kind of fall off. They lost like 5 of the last 9 last year. So, the defensive line, coordinators and coaching is a big deal in the NFL. They did sign Yannick Ngakoue. I finally got that guy's last name right. They're not the biggest surprise. Kyler Murray's play, guys, he is an MVP candidate right there with Derek Carr. Speaking of the Raiders that people are talking about, he has 73% completion percentage. His fumbles were up last year. I haven't seen him fumble any this year, taking less hits. I think Kyler Murray, his play and the explosion of that offense, although, I'm not in love with the head coach. They're still a very heavily penalized team. But I think his play and his step in the year 3 is the biggest surprise.
Yeah, that's a good point. That's a good one. That's definitely a good one.
Yeah.
So Green Bay beats Detroit last week. They come back in the second. They were losing in the first half. They come back. They put away Detroit. So Rodgers is going to go play against a team that's beaten them last few times they played. Once really bad in a championship. And this is where he wanted to be traded to. This was the big split up, the big issue surrounding Rodgers. They didn't offer any kind of talks with the 49ers. They didn't want to hear it. The Green Bay didn't want to hear it. So now he goes to play the team he wanted to be traded to, and they beat Detroit. If San Francisco handles Green Bay, is there still major questions about Green Bay in their locker room?
Yeah, well, I just think the team is really just taking a hit, not just that. They have an offensive lineman out today. I just read that this morning. Now 49ers did beat them last year, or they beat the 49ers last year. They called the 49ers decimated with injuries, but now they're healthy. I expect the 49ers, even with a 3rd or 4th string running back, to roll tonight. Now you've got a guard out, your left tackle. He's been out. He's going to be out the first 6 weeks. We talked about Corey Lindsey. He's now over there with this Charger team in that AFC West. I think they're going to be struggling all year. Luckily, Minnesota missed a field goal last week. I picked Minnesota to win this. But, 37-yard field goal, they're 1-1. I think Minnesota wins today, and they lose, and it's 1-2, and it's going to be a dogfight to the end. That's my opinion.
I don't know about that.
Hey, I think
I
they're
don't know.
nowhere near as good as last year.
I don't know. I don't know if Minnesota wins today or not, but it should be a good game.
Oh, that's going to be a tough game, but
it is. It definitely will be. So the early success of Sam Darnold right now, right? They haven't played well. We don't know who the best teams in the NFL are yet. We just know that the Jacksonville Jaguars, the Houston Texans sure ain't one of them. We know they're not one of the best teams. We really don't know how good New Orleans is. They should be good this year. And the Jets, of course, we know are rebuilding, so they're not going to be at their best.
Yeah.
But Darnold gets traded to Carolina, just like Tannehill got traded from Miami to Tennessee.
Yeah.
And does the organization you play for have almost as much to do with the success of that quarterback as his talent, Robert?
Well, I'll tell you, it's got to be at least 40% of it, guys. Think if Tom Brady went to Detroit. I always think about stuff like that. Patrick Mahomes. What if he went to Chicago at the time? Instead of Kansas City. So yeah, I do think. Look at Baltimore. Lamar Jackson. They drafted a tight end before they drafted. Was it Hayden Hurst or somebody before they drafted Lamar Jackson, and they perfectly put in an offense to suit him. I was thinking maybe the Giants to do that with Daniel Jones as quick as he is. But, I do think organization is much more than what we originally imagined, especially nowadays with the salary cap and everything, player movement, free agency, the draft. Think about Cliff Kingsbury. He was fired, guys, from Texas Tech. The NFL is adopting more college concepts now.
Yeah. You look at all the greats. You bring up Brady, right? He starts with New England. What happens if he starts with the Jets? You bring up, we talk about, as you said, Mahomes.
The Jets would have been better than they were, Mac. Right? They would have won the Super Bowls, but they would have been better.
Right, but what I'm talking about, Jack, is we talk about Brady because of all the Super Bowls he's won, right? And all the yards he's gotten. All the great quarterbacks that I can think of. There aren't too many that we talk about on losing teams, right? So right. I think you look at Trevor Lawrence. He's with the Jags. If he was on a good team, maybe he becomes great sooner. Let's put it that way. Maybe he becomes bigger, gets more yards sooner than if he was on the Jaguars right now. And I think a lot has to do with right place, right time. We don't give enough credit to that, right? If Dan Marino was born at the time the Miamis were the Super Bowl powerhouse instead of Bob Greasy, could you imagine what this guy would have done? So I think a lot, we talk about the greatest, and we single them out, whether it's running back, quarterback, wide, whatever it is. Jerry Rice on another team, who knows what he would have done on a porous team? We don't know for sure. But I don't think we give enough credit to where they play, the coaches they play with, and, at that time. I really don't think we give that enough credit to that. When we
think about this, guys. Carson Palmer, one of the most talented guys ever. Goes to Cincinnati. I thought he was completely washed up. Jack, you remember when he played for the Raiders? I thought he was just washed up because remember he got that really bad injury in 2005 season. And then he goes to the Arizona with Bruce Arians, and they get to the NFC Championship game.
But, guys, it's what is. You're speculating, well, had he been somewhere else. Who's considered in general the greatest defensive player of all time? The consensus pick would be Lawrence Taylor. Look at the players surrounding him on the Giants. He had great players. You put him on a weak team that has a weak defensive unit. Lawrence Taylor, I could say, wouldn't stand out, would just be another very good guy who'd be an all-pro, but not one of the all-time greats. I could make that argument as well.
Definitely. And so you're making my point. What I'm saying is when we look at the records, we don't think about what teams they were on. We say, well, Johnny Unitas was one of the greatest quarterbacks of all time. But we don't look at the overall team when we look at those records. You know what I mean? We look at stats individually. But those individual stats have a lot to do with what team they were playing on and when they were playing on that team. And that's all I'm saying, Jack.
Look, it counts. I understand what you're saying. You can make an argument Dan Marino was a better quarterback than Tom Brady. But you have to also look at some of the big games where the way Tom Brady led the Patriots back, that comeback against the Atlanta Falcons in the Super Bowl, that was legendary.
Sure.
You know, there are big spots where Dan Marino didn't quite step up, but you can argue he was a better quarterback than Tom Brady. I mean, listen, all these guys are on the same level. And I think Jimmy Johnson said it best. I was listening to him talk. He said, Patrick Mahomes is the greatest quarterback I've ever seen, but you have to rate Tom Brady as the best based on accomplishment. So I think we have to set up particular categories, you know, who's better than who. And I agree. There are number quarterbacks that could have led the Patriots to the Super Bowl, elite quarterbacks. They would have gotten there with Peyton Manning, Aaron Rodgers, Dan Marino, I feel. But, you know, you take the situation really like as is.
Yeah, I mean, Denver do before they had John Elway? I mean, I think he's an example of a really superb talent going to a bad organization at the time, anyways.
I listen. I agree with that all. I just when especially football. I look at football as a team sport, and I think that fantasy football has added even more to this, right? Terry Bradshaw won 4 Super Bowls as the quarterback of the Pittsburgh Steelers, and if you put his stats up against some of the other quarterbacks, they're not the best, right? But does that really matter? I mean, see, I think I know fantasy football again has got everybody thinking about individual stats a lot, but the beauty of the game is it is a team sport. And without a good offensive line, without a good defense, and without good special teams, I don't care how good your quarterback is. He's not going to be at one of the greatest of all time anyway. So that was just my point on that. So
yeah,
I want to talk a little bit about the Heinicke situation in Washington, right? We Fitzpatrick goes there, another injury where he got taken out of the game. Heinicke plays pretty well. Robert, I mean, he's not a big name. He's not a quarterback that you think of that could win a lot of games by himself. Is he good enough? If Washington gets on a roll, is he good enough to get them and maybe win the NFC Championship?
I don't know about that, but I'll tell you this. The organization, and I talked about this on my show the other day, you take in a guy like Ryan Fitzpatrick, 38-year-old journeyman quarterback, and they did make an attempt to go after Matt Stafford. I want to say Ron Rivera said that publicly. But Heinicke, kind of like in basketball, Steve Nash, they must have seen something in practice that really triggered them to say, we're going to start off with this guy that we know that starts off really fast, but he's up and down, Ryan Fitzpatrick. And we're going to take a chance on this guy. We've got the defensive line. We've got the offensive line. And here's another stat for you guys. They called more passing plays than the Giants did in their last game. And the Giants have their franchise quarterback. They got Kenny Golladay and all those guys. So there is some belief there. The guy's got a good release. I mean, with the right break, I mean, possibly,
It's patchwork, Heinicke. I'm not impressed in the long term. He could come in. He can spark a team. He reminds me of you having car difficulty. AAA comes, they check your car, they get you going, but they let you know you better get it into the service station if you're going to go on a long, long trip before you continue. And that's Heinicke. I mean, listen.
That's terrible.
He had that terrible. The Washington football team won the game. And you remember Heinicke hitting on a big pass at the end of the game, bringing the team back. He had that awful turnover. I mean, towards the end of the game, that could have lost them the game. And people forget that. Listen, he's the type of guy you want on your team. He's a good fill-in, a good backup. He could spark a team. But if you have to rely on him for the whole season going forward, you're going to have problems. And it's going to be interesting. Washington, they're not going to pick high in the draft next year. But they really need to address their quarterback situation. And something tells me that they're going to have a reunion with Kirk Cousins down the line because I think this is his last year at Minnesota.
He's got a stronger arm than Cousins, in my opinion. Guys, Kurt Warner, people were laughing at Kurt Warner. I mean, this guy was NFL. This guy played in one of those semi-pro. I wonder it was like the AAF or XFL. It's about Tyler Heineke.
Arena or something. Yeah.
So crazier things have happened. I mean, Jim Jeffcoat brought up the other day, Tony Romo wasn't even drafted.
Yeah.
And they got to the playoffs with the guy. So once you get in the playoffs, a few lucky breaks, the jury's still out. But I wouldn't,
Jack is just mean today. I don't know what's wrong with you calling out that.
I'm just saying it's going to play out. Listen, Washington's problem has been this so far, a couple of games. I mean, they were supposed to have one of the best defensive units in the league, and their defense has performed poorly. That's really been their problem. They were lucky to win their last game, not to go to 0-2. And, we'll see moving forward. They have a tough matchup today against the Buffalo Bills, so their defense had better finally get it together today.
You got that right.
Right.
I mean, I don't know how many times they hit Jones last week, but it didn't seem like they hit him too much. We'll see. I think Heineke's a good quarterback, Jack. I don't know what you're talking about. I mean, Earl Morrall played pretty well when he was a substitute quarterback. It could have started, I think, on some teams.
You miss my point. I look at guys as franchise quarterbacks. Whoever's quarterbacking your team this year, do you want him quarterbacking your team next year? And
I say give him the end of the year.
Have their franchise quarterback going forward. In the case of Washington, listen, they knew what Heinicke could do, but Fitzpatrick was the starter.
How do you know? How do you know Heinicke cannot be a quarterback for the future if you don't let him play a few games?
Why Ron Rivera didn't think he was their guy for the future. That's why they traded for Fitzpatrick. They already had Heinicke. That's why Fitzpatrick was made the starter. They know what Heinicke can do. Heinicke is a capable backup you put in an emergency. All in all, he got the job done at the end of the day against the Giants. But if you have to count on him week after week, I mean, Washington then is going to have to be pretty creative on offense, and they're going to have to really run the ball very well.
Stop. Bradshaw was a backup too, Jack. Come on.
No, Bradshaw
was a backup.
Terry Hanratty and Joe Gilliam. The three of them were competing for the job.
He was a backup. He was a backup, and we all know
it was a three-way competition at the time.
So don't give me that Heinicke. We don't know. We didn't know. They didn't know Bradshaw. They sat Bradshaw in his rookie year. So don't give me that, Jack. You can't say that for sure.
Well, Rob, but what do you think? Is Heinicke like Josh McGowan or what?
Mac's ready to put him in that Super Bowl, and you're calling him Geno Smith and Billy Bowling.
No, he's better than Geno Smith. He's better. No, he's better. I take him over Geno Smith. No,
there's somewhere in between there, guys. I'm not calling him Elway or nothing, but I mean, you're calling him, man.
Oh my God, yeah, you're saying
he's competent. Listen, Heinicke is competent. You just don't want him long-term going forward. In other words, if he's your quarterback the rest of the season, the offense is going to struggle somewhat. He's going to have some good games, but he's not the answer long-term. I mean, I can't imagine Heinicke being the starting quarterback for Washington next year, for example. But I could go over the whole NFL rosters, all their teams, and the majority of the teams already have their starter for next year, barring injury.
Oh, stop it. Listen, Jack. I mean, I don't know if do you know this guy personally? Are you on the coaching staff? Are you a scout that I don't know about? How do you know?
Who did Ron Rivera select as his starter?
I don't think he was wrong.
He had Heinicke last year.
So he was wrong.
But he still traded for Fitzpatrick and made Fitzpatrick a start over Heinicke. Ron Rivera knows the talent level better than all of us.
Well, do you think Chuck? Wait a minute, Jack. Do you think Chuck Noll is a competent coach?
Of course. Great coach.
4-time Super Bowl, right? Hall of Famer. Joe Gilliam was the starter of the Steelers when they pulled Bradshaw out. He was a starting quarterback. So Chuck Noll didn't know what he was doing either.
Joe Gilliam had one of the best arms you'd ever see. But Joe Gilliam had some problems off the field. And keep in mind, the Steelers also drafted Terry Hanratty out of Notre Dame, who was highly touted. They had a three-way competition.
Joe Gilliam
emerged.
Joe Gilliam was the starter, Jack. Bradshaw was behind.
Franco Harris, Lynn Swan, Rocky Blyer, their great offensive line. Heck, Terry Bradshaw won 4 Super Bowls, 4-0 in Super Bowls, but we don't talk about him as being one of the all-time greats.
He's in the Hall of Fame, Jack.
He was a great quarterback, but not one of the all-time greats. Listen, no one would rate Terry Bradshaw over Dan Marino.
Now, do you hear this, Robert? Now he's putting down Terry Bradshaw. I don't know.
I'm not putting him down. He deserves to be in the Hall of Fame. He was a great quarterback, just not one of the all-time greats, but he had one of the all-time great supporting casts. We understand that. You was making that point before, Mac. You were saying what quarterbacks have to be in certain situations.
Yes.
Put Terry Bradshaw on the New York Giants, and he'd be struggling at the present time.
I agree.
Well, guys, I'll say this. They did not get aggressive. And we know how Daniel Snyder is, even though he says, well, you're going to be in charge, Ron. This was a quarterback-heavy draft. They could have got aggressive like they did with Robert Griffin and traded up and maybe got into the sweepstakes, maybe went after a Justin Fields. I think that the school of thought was, this guy's got something. We just want to see if it translates to the field. And, I mean, Jack, you got to admit, Ryan Fitzpatrick has got the record for most touchdowns by most teams. He's the Jay and Journeyman. It's like 8 or 9 teams. So I know that he didn't. Ron Rivera, if you set him up with a lie detector, says, do you think this guy's going to be your quarterback the whole season? He's been inconsistent his whole career. That's why he's bounced around the league.
Rob, who did Ron Rivera make his starter for the season? There was a competition in the Washington football team training camp. That's what Ron Rivera said. And Fitzpatrick emerged as the winner of that competition. Unless Ron Rivera promised him the job to sign to leave Miami, he became a free agent.
Right,
but the bottom line is
scenario.
I know. No, it's a little different. Everyone knows that Dalton was just holding the seat for Justin.
Jack. Let's not beat this at that. What do we Okay, you got the Cardinals, the Rams, the 49ers, all at 2-0. Seattle Seahawks at 1-1, barely losing one of those games. Who is the best team in the NFC West?
I don't claim to be Nostradamus, but I figured that everybody would put the Rams early. I'm picking the Rams to win today. They do have 2 wins against 2 former last year playoff teams. The Bears made the playoffs last year, guys. The Colts were in the playoffs last year, but they're a very top-heavy, thin team. They're going to look good. I think they win today. But I'm saying the deepest team in that division is the 49ers. They don't look the greatest right now, but you look at offensive line, defensive line, skilled players, coaching, creative play calling and everything. They got a better pass rush than a much more talented Russell Wilson-led team in Seattle. So I think that it'll shake out that the 49ers, when all's said and done. I do like what Arizona's done, but I'm just not in love with Cliff Kingsbury. This team, the most penalized team in the league last year. They almost lost last week. They're the most explosive team offensively of the division, but I'm saying it's all going to shake out towards the end. 49ers today, if it was a 3 or 4 game season, guys, I would say the Rams, but we're talking 17 games. So I'm still saying the 49ers will emerge as the best team in the West. And it's a heck of a debate.
Well, Robert, we got to let you go. We got a commercial coming up. Then we got Jim Jeffco, who's backstage already. I appreciate you coming in today. Have a great day, and hope your Tennessee Titans can hold it together for one.
Well, man, there's a stay on the job. I don't have to start my employment service today with the Titans since they won last week.
Right, exactly. Good luck to
stay on the coordinator's job.
Good luck to you and the Titans and Giants all the way today, Robert. Just remember the Jets might Might even score a touchdown this week. We'll see. So
Yeah, I'd like the Giants to win today. Seriously, if they lose to Atlanta, I mean, I'm sure y'all going to be asking for Joe Judge's head up there at WFAN.
Joe, honeymoon period's over with Joe Judge. I'll tell you.
I agree, and Atlanta Falcon fans are saying the same thing about the Giants. So have a great one. Have a great one, Robert, and we'll see you next week.
Thanks, guys. Have a good show.
You too. So, folks, we're going to take a quick break. Backstage is our third co-host who joins us every Sunday, Big J, Jim Jeffcoat, and we'll have him on right after these messages. So stick with us. We'll be right back in about, I don't know, what do you think, Jack? 2, 3, 10, 20? Not. About a couple of minutes, folks. That's all it will be. So stick around with us, and we'll be right back after this with more of the Jack, Mac, and Jim Show.
If you served honorably in our nation's armed forces and you're looking for a way to continue serving your fellow veterans in your community, then join AMVETS. Each year, AMVETS members volunteer millions of hours at VA healthcare facilities from coast to coast, helping to improve the lives of their fellow veterans through the VA Voluntary Services Program. AMVETS posts and departments also participate in a wide variety of community service projects, ranging from Americanism in our schools to supporting the Special Olympics and Boy Scouts of America. If you no longer wear the uniform today, you can still serve through the AMVETS by joining today at amvets.org.
Hi, Grandma. What's for dinner?
Hey, honey, I'm making stew tonight.
Ooh, can Nina come over?
I'm not sure about our new friend. I wonder if there's been any drinking going on. Alcohol at her age can lead to so many bad things. I've been meaning to ask you, what would happen if someone offered you a drink?
Grandma?
This is hard. She's so young, but I know I need to talk to her about it now before someone tries to give her alcohol. If anyone ever does offer you a drink, I want you to say no. I have too much respect for my family, and I don't want to get in trouble.
Okay.
Really?
I promise, Grandma. I love you too.
Okay, how about tasting the stew and telling me what you think?
Some children may try alcohol as young as 9 years old. It's not too early to talk about drinking. For tips on how to begin the conversation, visit underagedrinking.samhsa.gov. That's underagedrinking.samhsa.gov. This message brought to you by SAMHSA and this station.
When you hear the word asthma, you probably think of shortness of breath, coughing, or inhalers. Lots of things can trigger asthma, but the fact is that asthma doesn't just attack, it can kill. But with proper medical management, asthma is controllable. If you experience shortness of breath, wheezing, tightness in your chest, or persistent nighttime coughing, you may have asthma. See your doctor and get the facts. You'll breathe easier. For more information, call 211 Info Line. A message from the Connecticut Department of Public Health, keeping Connecticut healthy.
If you talk and they will hear you every single time.
We're getting killed.
Yeah, well, Kyle's not here.
How come?
Kicked off the team. Didn't Tim tell you? Kyle and some other kids got caught drinking beer in the park a couple of nights ago.
Really?
Yeah. 0 tolerance. He's out for the season.
Come on, it's a first offense, right?
That we know of. But why should that matter? He knew not to drink. I've made it clear to Matt, that's what we expect from him. What have you said to Tim?
Nothing really. You know, a lot of kids try it at this age, so.
Yeah, well, a lot of kids don't try it too. I'm not saying that Matt's going to be this perfect kid, but if I don't tell him what we expect and why he shouldn't drink, how's he going to know?
You think kids that age really listen?
They never admit it, Bill, but they hear more than you think.
Talk. They hear you. For more information about talking with kids about underage drinking, visit underagedrinking.samhsa.gov.
Try.
This is a presentation of Northeast Streaming Sports.
Good morning. You're listening to the Mac and Jack Sports Show on Northeast Streaming Sports.
Good morning, everyone, and welcome back to the Mac and Jack and Jim's Big Football Show. We're here every Sunday for you from 8 to 10 a.m. Jim Jeffcoat is waiting backstage right now, and we'll bring Big J in and see what's going on. How you doing today, Jim?
Morning. Morning. I'm doing great. I'm doing great.
I hear you're out there in Los Angeles.
Huh?
I hear you're out there in Los Angeles.
Yes, I'm out here in Los Angeles, sunny Los Angeles. It's beautiful out here.
Yeah, I imagine it is.
Catching the game today by any chance? Tampa Bay?
No, I'm not catching the game. Unfortunately, I'm going to be headed back to Dallas this morning.
So there you go. So Jim Jeffcoat, who also is the co-host of J&B Talking Shop, the popular Northeast Streaming Sports YouTube show. Tune into them Wednesday at 8 p.m. Eastern time and check them out. Great show up there. Jim, I want to get your opinion before we start on what we normally do here. And me and Jack were discussing, right? McCaffrey just pulls up with an injury. He wasn't even hit. And it seems to me, if you go back 3 years, you had McCaffrey, you had Saquon, and Zeke were probably among the top running backs.
Yes.
And as opposed to the old-time running backs, and you don't have to go back that far, Emmitt Smith, Walter Payton, and I mean, go back to John Riggins, Jim Brown. I mean, you could go all the way back, and it didn't seem there was so many injuries as there is now. And do you think that maybe they could be overtraining? Maybe they're putting way too much off-season pressure on their joints and on their muscles, as opposed to back then when you guys worked out. I don't think you did some of the things they do now. You guys were hitting a lot more, doing a lot more drills, a lot more regular workouts. We're all year now. And without the hitting and without everything else, it seems like they're maybe bigger muscular-wise, maybe. But they're getting injuries that don't even have anything to do with getting hit sometimes.
That's a great point because I've always wondered about that. Yeah, we always talk about body fat in football, but you have to have something to pad your muscles. And you have to have the flexibility to be effective and not get injuries. I didn't have an injury until my last significant injury to my last year of playing when I had to have a scope. But you saw that in the past. But now it's very unusual for a player to play a significant amount of time and not have an injury. Because I wonder about that too. Just like you do, what is causing all these injuries, especially in the running back position? We know they get hit. That's obvious. But are they getting too muscular? Are they, like you said, overtraining? There's got to be something. Or are they flexible enough? Or because the padding, when you have some body fat, that pads your muscles from getting bruised. And that's the thing, because that's interesting because McCaffrey had issues in college too at Stanford. Yeah, because we played him when I was at the University of Colorado, and he had these issues where he had a lot of injuries. And now it's going over to the NFL. Zeke has been fairly healthy. Other than the COVID issue, he's been fairly healthy. Saquon, we're seeing he's trying to come back now from the injury that he had last year at the ACL. And I just wonder, but it's not just running backs, it's every position.
It's everyone.
It's everyone. And you have to wonder, how are they training? What are they doing? Whether the strength coaches, are they understanding? Are they giving them some kind of vitamins or herbal? Who knows? But that's a good question. I really don't have the answer to it.
Jim, I have a theory, and I'm not talking about the devastating injuries when you get hit. I'm talking about pulled hamstring muscles, that the old timers, you never heard of them getting it. And my theory is this, and you can answer this better than I can. In this modern age of the NFL, there were a lot of lulls, their TV timeouts, their instant replay timeouts. Guys go right back to the sideline. They sit on the bench, and they're cooling off too long. It's going to be about 15 minutes that they're cooling off, and then they go back in the field, and the muscles have to stay warm the whole time. I know this kind of as a former marathon runner. You can't just sit down and take an extended break. And then especially football being an explosive sport, every movement in football is an explosive, quick movement. You can't jog and start warming up again. And that's my theory why guys are getting these pulled hamstrings. What do you think?
You make a good point, Jack. slowing down and then speeding back up. That is difficult on the body. And I think that that's something to look at. Are we giving them too much time between plays or breaks? But we're supposed to be in a more up-tempo league now. But like you said, when you have the commercial breaks or the halftimes are shorter now. But that is true. Your body has to get warm. I noticed that a lot of players now go on the bicycles during breaks. And maybe that's the best way, but you can't put a whole team on there. That's unfortunate.
I was thinking, why not have like 20 bikes? A bunch of other guys should be stretching on the side. I hate to see guys sitting on the bench and they're there for the longest amount of time, and then they run out on the field and they're just.
Then there's a timeout. Yeah, there's a timeout.
On that is that you look at a guy like Aaron Donald. We never hear about him getting injured. If you notice that, or T.J. Watts just got a groin injury, but Aaron Donald, I don't remember him ever having the chance of being injured. So those things, it's pretty interesting when you say these things because I've never thought about them, but I think it is in the training methods.
Well, me and Jack have been talking about this in all sports, that there are major injuries that never happened before, and the durability of all players in all sports, including football. It just seems that it's more weight training than maybe it should be. I mean, I know you got to lift weights. I did too. You do for strength. But when you're just concentrating on muscle groups, you're actually tearing your muscle to make it bigger. You're putting more pressure. You're putting more pressure on your joints and your tendons and everything that's holding everything together there. And I think maybe they're just going overboard. Jerry Rice had a regimen of training, but it didn't include a lot of weights. I mean, one of the commenters said about Willie Galton, Lynn Swann, they both took ballet, to be more flexible. I'm thinking maybe they should start taking a look at this, and maybe we can keep the players on the field longer.
I think you're right, because when I came out in 1983, I bench pressed 225 18 times. Now receivers are doing more than that at this time. But I can run, and I was very flexible. And that's the things that sustained me for 15 years, is being flexible and being able to run.
Yeah, I think that's one of the things.
You have to find, because you're paying these guys millions and millions of dollars.
Right.
And you want them in the field. You don't want them missing 4 or 5 games or even 2 or 3. You don't want them.
But Jim, it's amazing. We live in an era of analytics. Everything is analytics. It's so ridiculous. I'd love for them to go back to when you played in before, to see the amount of time, minute-wise, that you'd be on the sidelines as compared to the modern era now. And I bet it would be a lot shorter in the past, where guys would be on and off the field than now.
Yes. So we're supposed to have Pags coming in with the Pags preview of the Eagles. We'll see if he makes it on or not. He's in Dallas right now.
By the way, I have to apologize, Jim. The way I was influenced by Pags, I told him off during the week. I'd gone with the 49ers all week over the Eagles. But when you see a guy's face painted and he's in a Warrior outfit and he's in the parking lot from 6:30 in the morning for 1 o'clock game and he's crazy, he made a believer out of me. So I changed my pick at the last moment. But you told me don't be influenced by a man in a Halloween outfit. And
I tried to tell you that. I tried to warn you on that, Jack.
Yes, he did.
Every team has this. And that's a part of it. That's a part of pro football. You're going to have guys like that.
Yeah, definitely.
But he's not playing. He's not.
Yes.
You have to look at what's going on the field.
Yes, exactly. So before he gets in, we really don't cover we're supposed to cover all the Northeast up here. Well, guess what? Pags is in. Look at that. Speak of the devil and he appears. So, folks, we have right now backstage giving us a live report from Dallas. Of course, they're not playing the Monday night. Pags preview of the Eagles. Let's have him come in. How you doing today, Pags?
Good morning, guys. How are you?
Doing real good. I see you're down. You're in your hotel room. It looks like, or hopefully that's your hotel room. And
it is mine tonight. It's mine. So
Okay.
I didn't get as lucky down in Dallas. Everything's bigger down in Dallas. I like things small sometimes.
You're right. Yes, I'm not even going to touch that with a pole. Max.
Yeah, well, I
don't even know where that was going. Pag. So the Eagles, they start off big. They have a nice win against Atlanta. They end up playing the 49ers. They were competitive. They didn't get blown out by the 49ers, that's for sure. And now they go up against a team that I think for the last 10 years has been favored to one of the favorites to go to the Super Bowl, right? And the Eagles always seem to get in their way. I remember a couple years back when Dallas had a shot and the Eagles ended up beating them last game. And the Eagles have always, to me, been a lunch bucket team, right? They've always had a decent defense, a solid offensive line. And if they have weapons, they're even better. So you got Dak Prescott, who looks good. Gallup's out. Cooper's hurt. So the offense is not going to be at 100%. They have a decent two-headed running attack now, right? And the Eagles still hurts. I'm not sure of yet. He's playing well. It's only 3 games. This is going to be a big test for him. You guys got an explosive running game if we want to use it. What do you think the Eagles got to do to beat Dallas Monday night?
So it's going to play a part in whether they are able to sustain the injuries that they have in the offensive line. So obviously we have Mailata, who's going to be out, and Brooks that's going to be out, and we have Landon Dickerson, who was our second-round pick, who's going to fill in for Brooks, and then Dillard, who was a first-round pick a couple of years ago, who's going to fill in for Mailata. So those 2 injuries specifically, I think, are going to be a really big deal in being able to handle the defensive line. My fear amongst everybody, obviously Dak looks really good and is a lot more secure about his leg than what you would typically see after an injury like that. So my fear is more lately, Elliott hasn't been the one that's been killing us. It's been Pollard. Pollard is that change of pace back who's just really quick. He can change directions, on a dime, and literally has been able to kill the Eagles, getting like close to 100 yards, if not over 100 yards, on less than like 10 or 9 carries. So it's him that I'm more concerned about than Elliott. Elliott just doesn't look the same as he used to. And I feel like if they can contain Pollard and the offensive line can hold the defensive line, that we're going to have a really good chance here.
So, I mean, if you're the coach right now of the Eagles, right? You know what Dallas can do. They probably got 30 other receivers in the back room somewhere we don't know about that could step on the field and do something for them. I think Gallup is a huge loss for the Dallas Cowboys. But if you're the coach, what kind of game plan are you going to have against that improved defense of Dallas? I mean, listen, last week they looked really good. They got a couple touchdowns called back by San Diego, granted. But they still played a really good ball game against a very talented San Diego offense. And the Eagles right now, if I was to compare both of them, I say San Diego maybe has the edge because of Herbert, but Hurts does look like the real deal. So what would you do right now if you're going up against that new improved Dallas Cowboys with Quinn as your defensive coordinator, because you know he's going to be scheming for Hurts, he's going to be scheming for Devontae Smith. What are you going to do to attack the Dallas defense?
I think you're going to do exactly what you have been doing up to this point. So why change what's been working? I feel that the biggest changes that need to get made from last game is his calls on 2nd and 3rd and 4th and short. I feel like that we lost to the 49ers in 3rd and 1 and 4th and 1 plays. Every time we went on a 3rd and 1 and 4th and 1, and it didn't matter whether we were on offense or defense, we lost that battle. And ultimately, that's what cost us this game. And that I feel that he made a lot of rookie coach mistakes by making some of those calls and some of the things. Like, I think he was overthinking how to get that extra yard or how to stop that extra yard. And it seemed like, every time Garoppolo got into a 3rd and 1, they snuck it and they made it. And the defensive line is a really good line. And I mean, the 49ers line is good, but I mean, we should have been able to stop them at least once, and we never were able to do that. And then when we got a 1st and goal on the 1 and 2nd and goal on the 1, and and then try to Philly, which was really not the call to make there. I felt that really all of those decisions were, rookie coach mistakes. And he's got to learn from that. And hopefully he'll be able to do things a little bit differently come Monday night, where he's going to be able to, one, get off the field on those 3rd and short calls, and maybe stay on the field on offense on those 3rd and shorts.
Okay, so what do you expect from the Cowboys? What do you expect they'll do? You think they're going to run the ball against you guys, or you think Dak, even with a couple receivers banged up, will still throw the ball a lot?
Well, I think that's what he does. I think he throws the ball a lot. I think that they use the running game to get to the passing game, and that they always seem to stick with it. It's that they never seem to get away from the running game. And why would you? Like it says, I mean, you do have Zeke Elliott that you have to pay attention to, and Pollard is also, like I said, a top-end back. At least he's always killing the Eagles. Yeah. So I feel like that they definitely have to make sure that defensive line comes in, and they need to really put pressure on Dak. I want to stress him some. That's what I want to do. I want to have him have the ability to make the mistake. He hasn't made many mistakes, and I tell you, the Eagles have done something that they have never done and has never been done in the NFL. The first 2 games, they have not had a turnover or given the ball up. So they've had 2 clean slates for both for the first 2 games. That's never been done in the NFL. So I kind of expect that there's going to be either a turnover, or hopefully we can turn the ball, get some turnovers. They haven't been able to do that well over the last couple of years. So I'd like to see them try to get that ball. And the other thing that I feel like that I wonder about is that this is the first time in forever that I don't know who the tight end is on Dallas. And that kind of scares me. Because if I don't know who he is, that means that they could game plan for this guy, and I would have no idea who he is or what he can do. And that's, I know all of the tight ends from Dallas because I've learned to hate them all these years, and now I have no idea who it is, and that makes me think that if you're going to possibly overlook somebody, that's where that they could actually gain yards. And because Cooper's hurt. I think that he's only going to be, if he plays, he's going to be at like 60 or 70%. You have CD Lamb, who you have to pay attention to, but really, who else is there? I mean, Gallup's out. There's not really many other weapons that scare me like that, other than Pollard.
Yeah.
So,
like I said, don't worry about Dallas. Don't worry about Dallas. Dallas got like 10 other wide receivers ready to step in and catch the ball for about 200 yards on you guys. I think you got to use your tight ends and start using your tight ends again, to tell you the truth, Bags, and we'll see what happens with that.
Well, they have not thrown any balls in the middle of the field at all.
That's strange. That's strange for the Eagles. That's such a big part of their offense before. But we'll see what happens. Well, Pax, thanks for stopping in. We can't wait to see your report. Yes, we can't wait to see your reports from Dallas, and good luck to you guys down there. I mean, it should be an awesome game. At least I hope.
Jim, notice I didn't say a word to Pax. I'm not talking to him after last week.
See, I didn't even put the makeup on yet, but
yes.
I hope to see you, Jim, in a little while. Obviously, we're coming out tonight. We're going to do a quick meet and greet and a live show over at Texas Live tonight, where I get to really beat him up, and I'll have the face paint on then. So, Jack, you can tune in. You can tune in then, Jack.
Yes, just say, Jim.
Jack will take it back next week. You'll know why.
Jim, take it easy on him.
I'm not changing my prediction based on you this week.
Yes,
so I'm not doing it.
And that's from a man who hates Terry Bradshaw. Just to let you know that, Pags, I want to thank you for coming in, and we'll see you Monday night, my friend. We'll see you all day Monday. Take care.
All right, guys. Have a great week.
All right. So there you go, folks. the PAGS preview. He's going to meet Jim Jeffcoat for the first time in person. In fact, he told us on the show, Jim, that he's not scared of you. He's 6'1" and 230 pounds. He ain't scared of you.
You don't have to be scared to get it. So
that's the truth. I
word scared.
Yes, exactly. Scared. But I guarantee you, when you start talking to him, you will see that the makeup starts coming.
Put him
out.
on the bottom of the pile for 20 seconds, and he'd be begging for mercy.
Yes. Okay.
Well, they can go across the middle.
Yes, you could. That would work too. So yeah, tune in tonight. I guess Jim will be stopping over there and being gracious to PAGS, stopping in for his party over there he's throwing. So tune in for the Philly Sports Guy, as he always goes to every game. We always get a live report from the Philly Sports Guy. Can't beat that. PAGS is a great dude, though, anyway. So, folks, we're going to take our last time out for today, and then we'll come back, and then we're going to break down the games and who we like. We'll give you our lock of the week, and we'll give you our underdog prediction, too. And to let you all know, on Mac and Mac's top picks, last 2 weeks, 3-0. So in the last 2 weeks, I am 6-0 against the spreads. And that's on a different show Thursday.
Mac, we're partners, right? If I went 0-3 and you went 3-0, then we're at 500.
3-3, correct.
Teammates, right?
Right. That's only, yes. Okay. Folks, we'll be right back after these messages. Jack always has a way of just stopping me dead in my tracks and asking me a question that I don't even know what the heck he's talking about half the time. But that's Jack. So, folks, we're going to be right back after these messages if I can find where the heck my stuff is at. And there we are. So, folks, stay with us, please. Again, back with Jim Jeffcoat and the great Jack Hirsch after this.
When you hear the word asthma, you probably think of shortness of breath, coughing, or inhalers. Lots of things can trigger asthma, but the fact is that asthma doesn't just attack, it can kill. But with proper medical management, asthma is controllable. If you experience shortness of breath, wheezing, tightness in your chest, or persistent nighttime coughing, you may have asthma. See your doctor and get the facts. You'll breathe easier. For more information, call 211 Info Line. A message from the Connecticut Department of Public Health, keeping Connecticut healthy.
We all make choices. When it comes to alcohol, kids make choices whether to drink or not.
Bye-bye. Remember, I'm going to Alex's party tonight and sleeping over.
Hey, have a seat for a second. Remind me about that party again.
Alex is just
And adults make choices whether to talk about it. That's true of parents and every other trusted adult in a kid's life. Kids want to know our expectations when it comes to alcohol and other drugs. They want guidance and honest answers to their questions. And it makes a difference when the message is consistent and part of everyday conversations. So talk with your kids and help lead them on a positive path. Because when you talk, they hear you. For more information about talking with your kids about underage use of alcohol and other drugs, visit underagedrinking.samhsa.gov.
If you served honorably in our nation's armed forces and you're looking for a way to continue serving your fellow veterans in your community, then join AMVETS. Each year, AMVETS members volunteer millions of hours at VA healthcare facilities from coast to coast, helping to improve the lives of their fellow veterans through the VA Voluntary Services Program. AMVETS posts and departments also participate in a wide variety of community service projects, ranging from Americanism in our schools to supporting the Special Olympics and Boy Scouts of America. If you no longer wear the uniform today, you can still serve through the AMVETS by joining today at amvets.org.
He was a giant, and he was a cowboy. Now these two former rivals have joined forces to bring you the most insightful, perceptive, and controversial sports talk podcast in America. Former Dallas Cowboys defensive end Jim Jeffcoat locks horns with former New York Giants wide receiver Byron Williams. And now, here's Byron Williams and Jim Jeffcoat.
Good morning, everyone, and welcome back to the Mac, Jack, and Jim Big Football Show here on Sunday. Mac and Jack Sports Show is on Thursday through Sunday, 8 to 10 a.m., live on Facebook, YouTube, and Twitch, 8 to 10 a.m. As I said, join us every day if you can. But I love this show because we get to break down all the games. We have our updates in. Of course, we have the great Jim Jeffcoat. I just ran the promo of their show, J&B Talking Shop. That's on Wednesdays, 8 p.m. on Northeast Streaming Sports YouTube channel. So join them when you can, when they break down the games, and they have the upcoming games and some guests, and then they have a lot of fun over there. And Byron Williams, former New York Giants star wide receiver. So, guys, let's get to the games, right? We got a lot of good games. Carolina already played, so that's out of the way. But we got the Colts in a kind of a rivalry game, at least last year it was, where they're playing Tennessee. And when Wentz is supposedly injured, Tennessee got back to running the ball like they should have in the beginning to set up Ryan Tannehill. The Colts are getting 5. What do you guys like over there? Go ahead, Jack. We'll start with you.
Titans don't have much of a pass rush. I mean, I still kind of look for low-scoring game. I know everyone's waiting for Julio Jones to break out with Ryan Tannehill and Derrick Henry maybe having a big game. But I kind of look for a low-scoring game there. And I'm actually going with the Colts to upset them because the Colts have a quality team. They've struggled a little on defense, but in the preseason we projected them to have a strong defensive unit. It hasn't played out yet, but I look for them to maybe rise to the occasion today and upset the Titans.
Jim, you agree?
Not really, because first of all, the Colts are probably going to play Huntley a lot during this game. Brett Huntley, who they had on their practice squad. I just don't trust Wentz. I really don't trust Wentz. Just like you guys said in the past, I think that, like you said, Mac, the Titans have got back to running the ball and doing the things that are effective for them. I think the Titans are going to win this game. I think they have them winning by 5. I could see that. I could see them winning the game by 7.
Even with all I said, I think the Colts defense is good enough to keep them in the game. I like the points. I think Tennessee will win the game, but I definitely like the points. I think Tennessee will win by 3 or 4 points. 5 is just a little too much for me. It was 3. I go with Tennessee. Atlanta is getting 3.5 playing in New York. What do you think, Jim?
I'm going with New York this time. I still think New York is a good team. I think Daniel Jones is getting better. The key to New York is going to be Saquon Barkley. Can he get back to where he was, or even 70% of where he was? I'm going to go with New York. I just like the Giants and the points. I think that New York will cover against Atlanta. Everybody else is covered against them.
I think there's a little element no one's talking about, but Jim has experienced it a few times in his NFL career. The Giants are better rested. They played last Thursday night, so they've had additional rest, okay? And I think that's a little bit of a factor in this game. And the Giants have got to unleash Saquon Barkley this game. To me, it's virtually now or never. If Saquon Barkley's hardly used against the Falcons, who are they going to be using them a lot more against? And it's easy to forget the Giants have an outstanding defensive unit. It didn't quite show up against the Washington football team, but this is a type of game that they could put it all together. But the Falcons do have some weapons on offense, with Ridley, Pitts, and we'll see with Matthew Ryan how much is left in the tank. This game is going to kind of be revealing.
Yeah, I mean, so who you picking with the game, Jack?
Oh, yeah, the Giants by 11 points, let's say.
Yes. Listen, I think the Falcon fans and Falcons are feeling the same way, right? If they can't beat the Giants, I mean, who are they going to beat? So there's a little bit of that going on. I just think if the Giants don't beat the Falcons by a good score, I don't mean just by 4 points or 5 points. If they don't get at least 10 points a win by this thing, it's going to be a letdown for the Giants. They really got to get out. I agree with you, Jack. They got to get Saquon going. And Jones was Offensive Player of the Week last week. They got to get him. They got to keep running him if they have to. And maybe, I don't know if Galladay is going to be a problem or not. We'll see. Ingram's supposed to be back. If he doesn't drop the ball, we should win by a good amount of points. We'll see what happens. Cincinnati, plus 4.5 at Pittsburgh. Let me take the lead on this one. I like Cincinnati a lot. I think they're a good team. I think Pittsburgh also is a good team. I think this division is a good division. And I don't know. Ben took a beating last week. Cincinnati's defense isn't the greatest. But, Burrows has been throwing the ball well. And I think the Pittsburgh defense might be tough. But I think he'll make enough plays to keep the game closer than 4.5. I think if Pittsburgh wins, it's by a field goal. So I'm going to take Cincinnati with 4.5 points. What do you think, Jack?
I'm going to tell you, TJ Watt being out means a lot more. It's going to hurt the Steelers a lot more than just his contribution on the field. Jim could tell you certain teams, maybe not the teams he played on with the Cowboys that had a few leaders, but he's that big leader you look to, for comfort and so on. And having him out of the lineup, I have to believe affects the Steelers somehow. Big Ben is banged up. I look for Najee Harris. This is his coming out party, okay? The Steelers really got to rely on their running game in this game. Low-scoring game. I think they edged the Bengals out in a very close, low-scoring game.
So 4.5 points. Who you picking, Jack?
I like Cincinnati with the points, but I like the Steelers to win the game.
Jim, what do you think?
Saying that Jack has some really good points about some of the things that are going on with Pittsburgh. First of all, with Roethlisberger banged up a little bit, that puts more pressure on Harris to make plays. I don't think I think it's going to be a closer game than people anticipate. I think the Bengals are getting better, but they do make some poor coaching decisions, and that's going to hurt them. I think Pittsburgh's going to cover on this. I really do. I'm going to go with Pittsburgh to cover and get over 4+. I think they're just right now they are a more explosive team than Cincinnati. Cincinnati does have some offensive, but Burrow will make some mistakes. And I know TJ Watt's being out is going to be tough on them, but I think they can cover that.
Okay. We got Chicago getting 7.5 at Cleveland. Landry is out. We don't know if Odell's playing. Of course, they got that great running game with the two-headed monster there. Chicago getting 7.5. Fields is starting. He might make some mistakes. But 7.5 is a lot of points to me against a pretty good pretty good Chicago defense. For some reason, I think they'll cover. Maybe Fields keeps the game close with his legs. I still don't think Baker Mayfield is the greatest quarterback, one of the best quarterbacks in the league. He might make some mistakes. So I'm gonna take Chicago with 7.5 points just because.
No, I'm kind of waiting for Cleveland. I think they're going to put it all together at some point in this season. I picked them to go to the Super Bowl this year. And you're right about Justin Fields. He has to make plays with his legs out, a necessity. And Jim could talk about this. Is there ways to contain Justin Fields? Is there ways to make him beat you with his arm? Because if you're going to make Justin Fields beat you with his arm, it doesn't mean he can't. He did it at Ohio State. But against that Cleveland defense, I kind of doubt it. I like Cleveland, by a couple of touchdowns in that game. But, we'll see how it plays out.
I think Jack is right on this. Cleveland is more talented on defense than the majority of teams in the NFL. I think Cleveland is going to get after him. I think Justin Fields is going to have a long, long day. And I think Cleveland's pass rushers are going to be after him. And I think they're going to obviously I worry about him getting knocked out of the game. This is his first start. He is going to be pretty good. But right now, I don't think he's ready for the Cleveland defense.
Did they rattle him verbally, guys like Myles Garrett? He sacks him. Could you get inside Justin Fields' head or what?
I really don't, because obviously, like you said, he played Ohio State. He's played top competition. I don't think that's going to get him. I think, talking to him after you hit him, hey, I'm going to be back. Just, hey, hold up. Don't fall down because I'm coming back after you, things like that. But other than that, I don't think that's going to rattle him just talking. The hitting's going to rattle him because they're going to get after him.
Right. So New Orleans, Winston kind of went back to old former self, threw a couple picks. They're getting 3.5 going into New England. And Jim, New England, I'm still not sure about New England yet. I think they could be a very good team depending on how fast Mac Jones develops. They got a good defense, we know, good special teams. You know their offensive line is pretty good. Their running game is okay. New Orleans, the big question is Winston, and I just can't. I don't know. What do you think?
My thing is I'm a big New Orleans fan. I think they're pretty darn good, and I think hopefully that was abnormally last week what happened with them. I think they're going to beat New England. I'm going with New Orleans to beat New England in New England, which is kind of shocking. Belichick obviously can game plan anybody and make them look bad. But the same thing, Mac Jones is still a rookie quarterback. He's going to have his days, and this week I feel it's going to be his day. It's just like Wilson at the Jets. He had his bad days. Rookies have bad days as quarterbacks, and I think this is the one because he's playing against an experienced defense, and I'm going with New Orleans.
People keep pointing to Zach Wilson's 4-interception game, and they're thinking that New England was so dominant, but the Jets actually had success running the ball. On defense, the Jets actually played well, and I'm sure Sean Payton's going to set up a game plan. On offense, he has to get Alvin Kamara finally going. He has to get him started this year. He's going to be a big part of the game plan. He's not going to let New England he's not going to put Winston in a position where he's constantly throwing downfield, getting interceptions. But I think he might put Mac Jones in that position, Sean Payton. I mean, crowd up, the defensive line, make him throw the ball downfield. And I look for New Orleans to upset him in this game because Sean Payton's the one coach. He can match wits with Bill Belichick. So I don't think there's a real coaching advantage there.
Well, I disagree with you, Jack. I think there's a huge coaching disadvantage because, listen, Belichick is not just a defensive coach. He's probably the top 2 defensive coaches of all time. Sean Payton is an excellent coach, great coach in his own right. I love New England at home here. I think they covered the spread easy. I think New England will just do the short passing game against New Orleans. And I don't see New Orleans offense moving the ball that well against New England's defense. I don't think Winston right now is ready. He's still a rookie quarterback, guys. I mean, he started, let's say he's a rookie quarterback with New Orleans. Let's say it that way. And I think it's going to take him a little while to get adjusted to New Orleans. I think New Orleans, is, like you, Jim, is going to be really good at the end of the year. I just don't think they're that good right now to beat New England. I think New England.
Just very quickly on Winston, he had some very good years as the Tampa Bay Buccaneer quarterback. He had some good years. We can't forget that.
I don't know if it's good years when you throw as many interceptions as touchdowns, and those interceptions lose you the game, Jack. I mean, if you throw interceptions, fine. But these 2 interceptions that were scores for the other team, and you just can't do that. I mean, I don't care how great your arm is and there's either reading the defense problem or the coaches didn't develop him right. I don't know yet. He's under the right coach right now, I'll tell you that.
But you also got to remember, who did he really get? Carolina's playing at a high level. Nobody anticipated but Jack. Jack said Carolina was going to be really good.
I don't think Jack said that. I don't think it was Jack.
But let's wait and see how the schedule plays out with McCaffrey out, J.C. Horn now out for the year. Let's see how it plays out. It's 3 games. I mean,
Jack can have my credit if he wants, but he knows who called.
He was a big Sam Darnold fan.
Yes, he was. Yeah.
Let's see. Anyway. NFL's like the stock market. You change your mind week to week.
Anyways, we got Arizona playing Jacksonville. Things are not going to get better for Jacksonville because it's not just that they're young. It's not just that, Lawrence has a slow release. It's not just all that. The coach is having a problem with his team and handling the organization right now. He's a rookie coach. Hopefully Urban Meyer gets better. I don't know if he will or not. 2 different systems in college as opposed to the NFL, and some college coaches just can't do it. I like Arizona by 7.5. I think Arizona beats them by a couple touchdowns. What do you think, Jack?
I like Arizona to win the game. I look Jacksonville to surprisingly put a scan to them. They're going to be guys on their couch with a beer in their hand watching the game. And when it's over, they're going to say, that Trevor Lawrence is no joke. I think, I know statistically he hasn't been good this year, but the signs are there. He's getting it together. He's going to be an elite quarterback in this league.
We'll see.
And I look for him to play a really strong game. Jacksonville to rise to the occasion, become a little short.
Okay.
Fairly high-scoring game, Arizona winning it.
Okay, so you're saying that Jacksonville will cover? Well,
Yeah, they will. They'll lose by a couple of points at the end. I think they're going to play a surprisingly strong game.
what do you think, Jim?
This is fascinating that Jack would say that. I think that Arizona's going to get after them. They're going to score some points. It's interesting, the contrast. Obviously, Kingsbury played quarterback for the Patriots. He's played in the NFL, and he understands how the NFL operates. Same with Matt Rule. Matt Rule coached at the New York Giants. He was an offensive line coach. These things help him. Where at Jacksonville, they don't have that experience. So these things are happening. And they're learning on it. They're taking baby steps. I do think Lawrence is going to be okay in the NFL. I really do. But I also think that they're going to struggle. Jacksonville has no chances.
But no one mentions this very quickly, that their number one draft pick, Travis Etienne, is out for the year. So that was someone they were counting on heavily to, help Lawrence out. So, but I think Trevor Lawrence is such a talent. I think it's going to be a special game today, but when all's said and done.
So Jack's got a feeling. That's what Jack.
Yeah. Well, no, I'm basing it on the faith I have in Trevor Lawrence. And, they're getting it together little by little. People are laughing at Urban Meyer. But he's one of the all-time great college coaches. So don't make it out like he doesn't know what he's doing. He'll get it together himself as far as the NFL.
Well, so is Nick Saban there, Jack. So you know what happened with him.
You got a good point.
Washington plus 8.5 at Buffalo. Everybody thinks Buffalo Bills are now the new Super Bowl champions after they beat up the Miami Dolphins. I think Washington comes in. They're going to play Buffalo tough. I don't think Josh Allen's going to be as successful as he was against the Miami defense. I like Washington with the points, Buffalo to win, but I think Washington keeps it close. What do you think, Jim?
I think Buffalo's going to win, and I think they're going to cover. I think Buffalo – I'm taking Buffalo with the points. I think they're going to cover. Washington still has issues on offense.
I agree with Jim, but my question is, do they have issues on defense? They were supposed to have one of the best defensive units in the NFL, and it hasn't shown the first couple of weeks. Did we overrate them or what?
You're talking about the Redskins.
The Washington football team. Jim, did we overrate them or not?
I think they got too much pressure on them right now, Jack, because they have to be almost with a young quarterback in Heineke. Their offense is not going to be as explosive as they are with a more veteran quarterback. And I think they're under a lot of stress. They got to keep the low-scoring games to win. And that's hard in the NFL in this day and age. And I don't know if they can do this on a consistent basis every week.
Okay. So we have the hot New York Jets playing the Denver Broncos in Denver. The Jets getting 10.5 points. Denver's pretty much had their way with everybody. The Jets, they played well, if you want to call losing by that much well. But, I just have a feeling that the Jets are going to keep this close this week. I think Denver wins, but I think the Jets stay within the 10.5 points, guys. What do you think, Jack?
The Jets are going to do everything to protect Zach Wilson psychologically after last week. It's so predictable what they're going to do in the first half. Run the ball, dump off short passes. It's so predictable that what they're actually going to do. Maybe they let him go a bit more in the second half if they're hanging around fairly close to try to win the game. I think the Jets are going to be competitive in this game. Zach Wilson can't be any worse than he was last week. I think he's going to be okay the second half. The Jets should have some success running the ball. I mean, Von Miller in that unit has an excellent pass rush. But when all's said and done, they're just like a better team. But the Jets their defense can hound Teddy Bridgewater. They really can. But I think it's the type of game that Denver pulls away late in the game. And what are they, a 10.5-point favorite? Let's say Denver wins 27-16 at the end. It's a close game most of the way, but they somehow eke it out and cover the points at the end.
Jim, what do you think?
Here's the thing: is Bridgewater is playing at a high level, and he's not making mistakes. I think the Broncos in this game will win, and they will cover the points. And the reason is it's nothing against the Jets. I think that the Broncos are playing really well, and they're not going, especially in Denver, they're not going to make the crucial mistakes, and Bridgewater hasn't done that. Now, they got some injury issues with the receiver, with Judy out for a little bit, but I think they have enough to cover the points on this, and I think it's going to be 11. They might win by 11 to 12 points.
Okay. All right. Sounds good. So we have the Miami Dolphins without Tua playing at the Raiders. And to me, Raiders, Jimmy had told us all along their defense was going to improve. Carr is number one in passing yards after 2 games, not counting Darnold's last game. The Raiders defense does look better. Carr looks better. And this is my lock, guys. I think the Raiders beat Miami easily by at least 4.5 points. They'll cover that spread and more to spare. What do you think, Jack?
So far, it's early in the season, but the Raiders have had the best pass rush in the NFL, at least it seems. Sometimes it's good to simplify things. They've played 2 games. Look at their 2 wins. They beat the Ravens, who beat the Kansas City Chiefs, okay? And they beat the Steelers, who beat the Buffalo Bills. That's what the Raiders have done. Tua's out. Not that he would necessarily be the difference maker. Jacoby Brissett, he got a capable backup, steady guy. Miami, you kind of wonder. I mean, they won at New England, their opener, and then they suffered that dreadful 45-0 loss to the Bills. Somehow when you get thumped like that, that could be a good thing for the following week. I mean, the coaches get on you. You're deeply embarrassed. You could come back stronger than before. But somehow the Raiders are really riding away from momentum. So I like them to win here by like a 30-20 score. Derek Carr's playing well. They'll put points up. The defense should do fairly well. And, Raiders by 10.
What do you think, Jim?
I like the Raiders to win this game, and I think a lot of things people don't understand. Gus Bradley, he might have not been he was at Jacksonville as the head coach. He's not a great head coach, but this guy, I've sat down and talked to Gus Bradley. This is a tremendous defensive coordinator. Then you have Rod Marinelli there, and we know his past with defensive lines. The Raiders are going to get after him. The Raiders have defensive coaches that can get these guys motivated, and they play hard. That's the biggest key, is they're playing hard.
Okay, excellent. Taking the Raiders, easy. Okay. We got Seattle -1.5 at Minnesota. I just like Seattle here at this spot. I like their defense. Minnesota played a tough game. If they made the field goal, maybe they win the game, or they do win the game. I just think Seattle needs this win to keep pace with the other teams. And I love Russell Wilson in this spot. So I'm going to take Seattle -1.5.
Both are coming off heartbreaking losses. I mean, Seattle loses to Tennessee by a field goal at the wire. So what do you make out of it? I mean, who's the better team? And, it's a game that could go either way. I could see a game like that going into overtime. How resilient the team is, how they are mentally coming back. I just don't know. Jim's experienced this around the league, especially that second Super Bowl he played. I've always been critical of the Buffalo Bills. Going into halftime with a lead, not psyched. And as soon as Thurman Thomas fumbled and your Cowboy team tied the game, it's like they threw the towel in. I mean, you all maybe won't say it being in the NFL fraternity, but let's face it, they did. I'm going to go with Minnesota. I have a feeling they're a bit resilient after last week, the way they bounced. You had 2 tough losses in a row to Cincinnati. and then losing on that field goal. I look for like an overtime game.
Jack, we're down to 10 minutes. Let's pick it
Okay,
up.
I'll go with Minnesota in overtime. How's that? 23-17.
Okay, what do you think, Jim?
Somebody just said that Zimmer's coaching for his job, and that is true. He's coaching for his job. But Seattle's going to win with Cook down. He's a little bit injured. He's a little bit banged up. I just feel that Seattle has a little bit more juice. And Pete Carroll is one of the greatest motivators in the NFL and getting those kids to play for him. So I'm going to go with Seattle.
Sounds great. Tampa Bay. Now, this was taken on Wednesday, and I'm not sure if these spreads have changed or not. But they were favored by 0.5 point over the Rams. I just like the Rams' defense better than the Tampa Bay Buccaneers' defense, and I think their offense can pretty much almost match Tampa Bay. That's why I'm taking the Rams with the defense. What do you think, Jack?
It's going to come down. I'll make it quick. It's going to come down to the last play of the game. I like the Rams. Let's say 24-23. Antonio Brown is out. That hurts a little. The Tampa Bay offense. Kupp for the Rams. Very underrated receiver. I mean, the two maybe best all-around teams in the NFL. Last man standing, last play of the game. I like the Rams to pull it out.
What do you think, Jim?
I'm thinking of Tampa Bay, and I'll tell you the reason why is that obviously Tom Brady might be one of the best quarterbacks, if not the best quarterback that ever played. That and Tampa Bay's running game. I think Tampa Bay's running game is going to be the difference in the game.
That's a good point. Green Bay is getting 4.5 versus San Francisco. Of course, we know Rodgers, this is where he wanted to go. Started the big riff, or part of the reasons for the big riff. San Fran is back to full strength on defense. They're starting a rookie running back. I just think San Francisco is a better overall team than Green Bay right now. I'm going to take them to beat Green Bay by more than 4.5. What do you think, Jack?
San Francisco has a fierce pass rush. They're going to get after Aaron Rodgers, but Aaron Rodgers is still going to get it done. There might be some issues with the 49ers secondary. They picked up Josh Norman, who they're counting on heavily there. I just think Aaron Rodgers, with his greatness, experience, even with the pass rush they put on him, he gets it done. The Packers upset the 49ers in San Francisco 24-20.
Jim?
I'm going to have to agree with Jack. I think that Green Bay wins this game. I picked the 49ers to get to the Super Bowl, but I just think Rodgers is starting. He's peed off at it. And he was saying, okay, you want to talk to me? I'm going to show you why I am Aaron Rodgers, why I am one of the best quarterbacks in the league. I'm going to go with Green Bay on this game.
Yeah. All right. I don't know. I think 49ers offense will wear down that Green Bay defense, no problem. Keep him off the field if necessary. Chargers plus 6.5 versus the Chiefs. Chargers always play them well. They're playing in Kansas City. Chargers lost. KC lost. But I'll take the Chargers with 6.5. What do you think, Jet?
High-scoring game. I mean, a shootout type of game. I mean, I'm going to go with the Chiefs to bounce back after the loss last week. The Chargers could have beaten the Cowboys. 2 touchdowns called back, 3 turnovers. The Chargers are a surprisingly good team. I mean, they're going to have a good season when all is said and done. I think they're a playoff team. It's a building block. Like your Cowboy team the year before they won the Super Bowl. This is their building block year. They go to the playoffs. I like in a high-scoring game. My favorite, in Patrick Mahomes, I trust.
Jim.
A lot of things that Jack says is true. I don't see a high-scoring game on the Chargers side. I think the Chargers are a year away from being a really good team. But I think Kansas City, after last week, they have some problems. They have some issues. But I think Kansas City with Mahomes is going to get after the Chargers. They're going to show that they're still one of the elite teams in there. And I'm going to take Kansas City.
Okay, I am writing this down because both of you think Rodgers and Mahomes wins these games. So I'm going to make sure I write this down so we see after Sunday's games if you guys are correct.
That's why we're MVPs.
I mean, Rodgers had a great game, but he had another guy over there called Aaron, somebody that probably ran the ball better and caught all those touchdown passes for him too. So let's get to Baltimore at Detroit. Detroit, I think, showed his true colors in the second half. Baltimore, Jackson's hurt, but he is playing. It's -9 there with Baltimore. I like Baltimore covering that easy. What do you think, Jack?
This reminds me when I'd play with my friends two-hand touch, and I would be guarding the quarterback. I'd give him the ball, count to 10 Mississippi. I wouldn't want to get to 10 Mississippi because I knew how quick he was. He'd dart left, right, really quick kid. I'd go against. Lamar Jackson's going to toy with that Lion defense. Lions aren't very good. They're tough. They're building character. I kind of like what Dan Campbell is doing. But the Ravens are point blank just better. Let's call it 34-17.
Okay. And Jim?
Ooh, this is a tough one because I just think some of the injuries are going to catch up with Baltimore, but I don't think it's going to be this week. I think that Baltimore is going to win this game, and they're going to cover. So I'm going with Baltimore. I do like Jared Goff. I think that he's under a lot of pressure because his offensive line can't protect him. But I do like him, but I just think Baltimore will win this game running away with it.
Okay, so we got the Monday night game. We got Philly getting 4.5 against Dallas. And I think this game is going to be so close that 4.5 is a lot of points. So that's why I'm taking Philly. What do you think, Jack?
I like the Cowboys there. I think storylines are going to start to develop. I think Pollard is going, if it hasn't already happened, pretty soon he takes over for Zeke as the featured back on that offense for the rest of the year. And the money they're paying Zeke under the cap, that could create a problem going forward. But that's another issue. And Zach Prescott's a quarterback that could use his legs. He's apparently healthy. And I think there are more concerns outside the Dallas Cowboy organization than inside as far as the shape. Yes, Amari Cooper, I wonder about him. Jim can tell you some guys want to play hurt if they have a broken arm. They're begging to get in. But what I hear about Amari Cooper, he has to be just right, okay? And the Dallas's big three receivers is basically down to, CeeDee Lamb. But they're a better team than the Eagles, I think, when all's said and done. I can't imagine them losing in Dallas to Philadelphia. I think they'll win. They'll cover the points. And I think there'll be a lot of scoring, basically 30-17 Dallas.
Okay, what do you think, Jim?
Well, here's my thing, is that the teams that Dallas face, they face really good receiving cores. And that's not saying that Philly's receiving core is not good. But this is the third team that they play, or fourth team really, that they played. And I think this is the less talented receiving core, and that's going to make a difference. I think Dallas is going to win this game. Hopefully Cooper is, they said he's not on any reports. They just said he's a little dinged. But I think that CeeDee Lamb, and I disagree with Jack. I think Zeke is going to start coming along, and he's going to bust out. It's just taking him a little time. As you get older, you just can't do it immediately. And Pollard is a good change of pace back. And I think Zeke's looking at it, hey, I'm going to show these guys how good he's in the same boat as Aaron Rodgers. He's got to prove it. He can't say it. He's got to do it. And I think this might be the week that he really shows up. So I'm going with Dallas.
Okay, so let's get to the other. There's a lot of underdogs this week to choose by. You got Houston getting 7.5. That game's already over. Chicago getting 7.5 against Cleveland. You get Jacksonville getting 7.5 against Arizona. You got Washington getting 8.5 versus Buffalo. Jets getting 10.5 against Denver, and the Chargers getting 6.5 against Chiefs. Detroit getting 9 versus the Baltimore Ravens. So,
no need to fear. Underdog is here.
When criminals in this world appear and break the laws that they should fear and frighten all who see or hear, the cry goes up both far and near for underdog, underdog.
So, guys, I'm going to give you my underdog pick, and I'm going to stay with the Bears. I think, believe it or not, that the Bears are going to get Cleveland all they can handle. We talk about Cleveland's defense. The Bears' defense will put a lot of pressure on Baker Mayfield. I think they can slow down their run, and I really believe that Fields with his legs will keep it close. So I'm going to take Chicago getting 7.5. Jack?
I'm going to go with Jacksonville to cover the points. They remind me of the Miami Dolphin team 2 years ago that was even worse than this Jacksonville team. Miami was getting blown out of every game. I think they lost to New England 59-0 early in the year. And then the last game of the season, they knocked New England out of the bye position in the playoffs. I think they'll get better as they go along. It might not translate into wins, but they're going to be very competitive today.
Jim, who's your underdog pick this week?
My underdog pick is New Orleans against.
Now we got to be 6 points or more, Jim. That's not a real underdog.
Okay.
Yes, sir.
Oh shoot! I'm going to go with the Jets against. I'm sorry, Jack. I got to go with the Jets against Denver. I think that Jets, they're going to be the underdog pick this week. I think it's going to be closer than people think.
Excellent. Yeah, 3 points don't count as underdog. That's home field advantage, Jim. That don't count. Yeah. So anyway, folks.
Jim was topping out. I mean, I can tell you didn't let him off the hook, Mac. Good for you.
Yes. So, folks, thanks for joining us on the Big Football Show. Me and Jack will be back Thursday, 8 to 10 a.m. Check out Jim and Byron and JMP Talking Shop on Thursday night. Have a great Sunday, folks. Glad you could make it. Enjoy the games.